Good afternoon. You're watching AB Live, a brand new news-based chat show in which we discuss topics ranging from news, business, politics, and so much more. On today's episode, we will be looking at the UAE's food and beverage sector, and in the studio right now, we have Lynne Bellinger from Marriott and we have Trevor MacKenzie from Mango Tree. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So Trevor, I'm going to start with you first. It's sort of a comeback for Mango Tree, isn't it, in this region?
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Happy to be back. We've been open since February. I think, like most restaurateurs, we all want to be in the Middle East, and Dubai is the greatest kind of place to be to set up your restaurants. And we did so well before. I think when we left, it was quite amazing for us to see how many people would call me and say, "When are you coming back? When are you coming back? When are you coming back?"
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So how does it feel to be back?
Feels great. I'm excited. I even brought my family here for the first time when we opened, and they got to experience Dubai, and it just feels good because the response has been so great.
So where exactly is it now?
In Hilton JBR, the Walk.
Okay.
So we're up on the.
So it was in Souk Al Bahar, was it?
Yeah, Souk Al Bahar before.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Coming to you now, Lynne. So what exactly would your role be as the Director of F&B Development? Everybody knows about Marriott. We don't need an introduction, but your role is quite interesting.
So my role is, my primary role is really looking after the third-party restaurant brands. So what I do is I bring in branded restaurants into the region for Marriott Middle East and Africa. So looking at various brands like Buddha Bar, might be Trader Vic's, the large branded restaurants. It might be Michelin star chefs, and really our strategy in Marriott is, because we have several restaurants in each of the hotels, we look at a mixture of in-house concepts, we look at licensed brands, so bringing the brands that we operate as Marriott hotels, and we get them to support us, obviously, to make sure that the brand integrity is there. They support us with marketing, menus, etc. So it's consistent with the brand elsewhere in the world. Okay, and then we have leased outlets. Right. So that's what I look at.
Great. So in 2 months, who would have thought? But we are going to enter the next year, 2020, and I think it is time for predictions now. But one report we've read in a lot of places is that apparently the F&B sector has been growing at an annual rate of 7.1%. What I really want to know from you guys is that just on paper, or is that really true?
Well, I've only been back for under a year, so I think for me to comment 100% on it, usually in our first couple of years of restaurants, that's when we see our largest growth, and then you'll see the growth start to peter. But I mean, that's what I expect to do in my outlets anyway. For a growth. Actually, ours is a bit more aggressive than that, and we're usually able to achieve that. So I think that it must be fairly realistic. What do you think?
I mean, the F&B sector, yes, it definitely is growing, but the supply is sometimes outweighing the demand in the market, and that's where I think some of the operators in the market do struggle.
Right.
So yes, it's growing, but it's not really equal to supply and demand right now.
For sure, as with a lot of sectors, we've spoken about this in the real estate sector, where there's oversupply in malls, retail, hotels, and now restaurants also. But now with Expo 2020 coming up very soon, there are announcements of 200 new outlets within the Expo arena. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the sector and for restaurants like yours?
I think it's a great thing. I mean, I've been to, this will be probably my 4th or 5th Expo I've been to.
Oh, really?
And I think that all it does is enhance everybody's brands. We've done pop-up restaurants ourselves at Expos before, and it's helped our brands. Yes, it adds. Yes, it will add competition, but those are the consumers that are going to there during the day and checking out the expo, and they're not going to stay out there all night. They're still going to be like any exposition. You get tired. You usually go for a few days, so you'll come back, and I think dinner time will be fine.
Right. I know Marriott chains. You guys have a presence in the expo as well.
Yes, we're going to have a few outlets in Expo this year, so that's going to be exciting. But yeah, I mean, you have to have an F&B presence in Expo. There has to be the F&B sector over there, because obviously you're catering to so many people.
But 200, is that a little too much?
Well, hopefully not, because you know they're expecting quite a number of visitors coming through the doors. So
25 million visitors is the target. So yeah,
I think that could be about the right number. So let's see. But I think it's like Trevor said. I think it's a good thing to showcase a lot of your restaurants. I don't think it's going to be a major money earner for most people, but a great showcase for various brands.
It needs to be there for service for the people during the day out there. So you have to have something. So it's better than having some, I don't want to say expos, but maybe some other events similar to Expo have had not enough restaurants before.
Yeah.
And then that poses a problem because people are out there and they're not enjoying the experience. And what's the first thing that people do when they're hungry? They get upset.
Yeah.
Hangry. You say hangry, right?
Yeah.
So,
hangry, yes.
you know, the last thing you want at an expo is people to feel hangry. So,
and they're not all full service outlets as well, those 200. I think part of those will be very quick service, grab and go concepts. Which
okay, like we see in the Global Village then.
Yes.
Very similar. All right, so that's the consumer side of it. How about the restaurant side of it? I mean, is that going to be a profitable business for the restaurants, at least not just within the Expo, within throughout the region as well? Do you think that is a profitable business to get into at this point? I mean, you've just come back to the region, so I think I need to ask you that first.
For me, I'm a bit different in the sense that I'm quite seasoned restaurateur. We do this around the world. We're in 15 countries now. So we're not scared to take on the risk or the challenge. And we're seasoned at what we do. For newcomers, I always tell newcomers, you know, are you sure you want to do F&B business? I mean, it's one of the hardest businesses there is out there. Everybody thinks it's so easy.
Why would you say that though? I've heard that so many times in the last few months.
It's a second marriage, number one, because if you have a family, a wife, whatever, you're married to your restaurant, you're there 14, 15 hours a day when you're getting it going.
Yeah.
And every day there is something that happens that takes your attention away from you. Just when you think you got everything right, something happens and your attention gets pulled in a different direction.
Right.
So it's one of those challenging businesses. For myself, I like it. I like the challenge. I like to change every day.
Yeah.
Do I get annoyed by it sometimes? Yes. I mean, that's natural, right? When we've been in it for so long, you're like, this again? Or, you know, when we are teaching new people the restaurant business, you go, why can't you get this? But it's just part of the business.
What do you think? Do the risks outweigh the benefits from a restaurant business?
Look, I think if somebody's looking to open up a restaurant specifically for Expo, I think they're in the wrong business. I think that would be the wrong tack to take, because it is such a short-term gain there. And I think that the cost of setting up a restaurant, I think only those that are in it for the long term really is going to make money. Like I mentioned before, being at the Expo, I think the setup costs are going to be extremely expensive over there. So whether people are going to make a lot of money, I don't think so.
Right.
That's a wrong pipe dream for sure.
Yeah.
It's a 6 month, it's a pop-up, you have to look at it like that.
Yeah.
And I think we all look at the industry, I don't know what Marriott does, but we look at it as a pop-up. If we break even, we're jumping for joy. I mean,
absolutely. And if
thing.
you're part of a larger organisation, it's different, because then you can kind of spread the costs and things like that. You've already got a brand, you've got it set up. You know, it's easier to transfer into a temporary location like that.
Fair enough. So just going back to the oversupply point you made just a little bit back. So right now, again, we know that there are so many restaurants springing up in different parts of Dubai, and every nook and corner you see a new restaurant, but most of them are similar concepts, they have similar cuisines, there's no unique element or a USP there. So do you think we probably need more regulations when it comes to limiting the number of restaurants that are allowed to be in this sphere right now?
I think it always helps. I think if we can slow down the amount of restaurants opening per year, that may help everybody get a little bit of better footing and the survival maybe, because a restaurant has we call it gestation period, right? It takes time to get it up, it takes time to get it going. It's not like you just open and instantly your restaurant is like the best restaurant there is. It takes time to grow, and especially now with all the competition, because you got to differentiate. So I think it can help.
But there is a lack of structure now, isn't there? I mean, there's just restaurants everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the government were to actually look at it and then look at people's business plans, etc., and take that more, you know, have experts looking at it to see, do they really have a good business model here, and is that going to really carry forward? And then, you know, because sometimes, you know, people are set up for success and some people are, are not. I mean, we're talking to owners now very seriously about cutting back on the number of outlets within our hotels. So when we have those initial discussions, when we're building hotels, etc., what we're trying to do is getting there a little bit earlier and decrease the number of restaurants, because it was different. If you look at 20 years ago, the scene in Dubai was, it was only hotels, you know, that could have certain restaurants in there. And anything outside of a hotel was just sort of the fast casual restaurants, etc. It's changed now. The scene has changed. So you've got areas coming up like DIFC and various other, you know, that are now coming in line with what they can serve in the hotels, etc. So we have to really look at it and think about it and be a bit more strategic in how many restaurants that we. But
there's also probably a cost problem there, right? Like, for example, the IFC, like you mentioned, these are higher priced restaurants and it caters to one segment of the society. But do we have so many people who are demanding that kind of service right now? Is that an issue for you guys?
I think not the fast casual, but the more sort of approachable casual restaurants are definitely ones that are making more money, like Mango Tree, for instance. You know, restaurants that people will go to more than once in a week, for instance, that they would, you know, visit more often because they're more approachable price-wise.
Right.
The high-end ones, obviously, it's, you know, once a month, once a week, whatever. They're less visited, but then you've got hugely successful ones over there as well. So,
no, the reason I mentioned it is I went to a restaurant recently and I was charged, I think, 50 dirhams for just a bottle of water. It's just water, is what I said. I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to be thirsty. But I'm going to come to trends.
What puts people off.
Yeah, it does, just water, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to come to trends in a bit, but let me just remind our viewers who've joined us right now, if you do have any questions for our speakers here today, just post them in the comments below and I will be taking them. So, trends. What are the trends that we could be looking forward to in 2020? Trevor?
Obviously, we'll overuse this word, but sustainability, it's coming. We need a new word for it, I feel, because it's a hard word to say and it's hard to describe what is sustainability in one word. So hopefully we get some segmentation. I think what Lynne mentioned about casualness, I think this is going to be a huge trend in the region. The casualization of restaurants, and it's something that we've seen in places. I'm from North America, from Canada, and we saw this happen 15-20 years ago. The casualization of restaurants, and the white tablecloths are gone, and the price points were brought down, and the portion sizes changed to adjust, and so the market will adjust to what the consumers want, and we've got millennials coming up, we've got even younger than millennials demanding different things, and so digitization is becoming this big thing, which I'm still trying to even figure out in my own business. I have to go every day and I have to study, literally I hired a bunch of millennials in my office. I
was going to say, hire the millennials to do that.
But I have to get them to teach me, what does this mean to you? And how does this go through your psychological decision process? And that's helping me to revamp some of the things we're doing in some of our casual concepts too, to hit these trigger points that help them.
Yeah, so exactly. It's probably taking casualization to the next level is what we've seen with the sharing economy, with the advent of Uber Eats, Careem Go, Swiggy, Zomato, isn't it? So that's another element of casualization where you just want to order in the food at home and that's super casual. You don't even have to wear clothes to go to a restaurant. So do you think what he said, just coming at the back of what he said, this could be the trend, or this could be the new norm?
The home delivery or the sustainability? The home delivery.
Yeah, home delivery.
Well, obviously, I mean, we've seen an upward growth in home delivery, and I think people, you know, in this market, you've got large families that eat together, they can order, you know, online rather than going out. You know, that there has been a growing trend towards that. But, you know, you can't beat the restaurant experience, and there's certain types of cuisine that you can't experience having home delivery. So, I mean, as Marriott, we're actually looking into sort of, you know, how can we redefine home delivery? Can we make that more upmarket and make that a little bit different? So rather than a motorbike coming, you know, maybe it's more of a little bit of a catering than, you know, small catering vans and things like that, you know, where your steak sort of cooks a little bit on the way in the hot box, so it's perfect when it gets to you and things like that. So we're kind of looking in that arena at the moment. But yeah, nothing beats the actual experience of going
Of course,
into
and
the
since we were talking about sustainability right now, home delivery, again, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, about the plastic forks, the spoons, the cutlery.
The boxes, the bags.
Exactly, that's a lot of
the
wastage
petrol,
there. Exactly, all of that. So what's your view on that?
Well, that's exactly my view, is that the millennials are driving this and they believe in sustainability, but yet it's 100% difference because, like you say, the petrol, the plastic, the motorbike guys with their two-stroke motorbikes or whatever that are polluting, and it's going against sustainability.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I also think, what's going to happen to socialization? You know, are we just going to stay in our houses and eat
and watch Netflix.
Watch Netflix and forget about this experience? So I think I've already seen it in Asia. Okay, Asians are still quite social anyway, but I also had some restaurants in US and it was huge. It was like the non-stop topic for years and years and years. And that's probably why I'm anti-delivery, because everybody's like, you have to be on delivery, you have to be on delivery. And I said, well, look, here's the numbers. It's not really working. And now everybody's on every delivery channel. Before it used to get to pizza, maybe one Italian guy and a few, and there wasn't that many. So of course you're going to see this huge growth numbers when they spit out the Uber Eats, puts out these numbers is growing by this. Of course, because there was nothing before. This was not a big sector. But now you've got everybody on it. You have to have all 4 platforms to do it. And at the end of the day, I mean, for myself, I feel it detracts from what my food quality is.
But does it not help your sales though, just in terms of numbers?
It eats into the profits. It eats big time into the profits.
Really?
It costs a lot of money to Yeah,
oh wow!
It really is big time.
Okay, that's a definitely new take that we've seen on this. But then, speaking of trends and revolutions, another thing that we have been seeing in this region is the whole vegan revolution. We have seen a lot of new vegan restaurants coming up, a lot of people converting to veganism right now. So does that have an impact on the way you approach this business? Now again, you've come back, you've made a comeback essentially. So are you going to keep that in mind as well?
We've already started a vegan menu within 3 months of operation.
Great.
We saw the trend. I saw it. I went and did my research right away from eating at vegans in Bangkok. We have a lot of vegan restaurants opening as well. And I said, if it's happening in Asia, it's going to happen everywhere. So I went out and studied right away. How do I get this to Thai food? I went out to Thai vegan restaurants and we came up with a 12 item menu for vegans. And now I've rolled it out in about 6 different restaurants already. And it's working very well. It's giving me a new stream of customers that I never had before.
Absolutely.
It's made it easy for my kitchen because now I've taken the guesswork out of it. The vegan doesn't have to come in and say, I'm a vegan, what can you cook for me? And then they go back and forth, back and forth. I've already got that menu for them.
Right.
And so it's instant, and then they feel like, you know, I care about them. And that's what we want. We want to connect with our consumers, right?
Because it's not all vegans that go out together and go out to a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
Correct.
You've got a mix of different people with your friends. You might have one vegan, one vegetarian, one pescatarian, one meat eater. So you've got to have a selection.
But what do you think of steakhouses selling vegan food? What's your opinion on that?
Absolutely, because I've got friends that love to go. I don't eat meat personally, and I've got friends that love to go out to those places. So what I'm going to do when I say no to go, no, that they'll have things on the menu for me. I eat fish still, so I can still order those kind of things. But I think a lot more restaurants these days are going into having that. I mean, you've got specific restaurants. I mean, for instance, the West Inn, we've got Bounty Beats, which is something that opened, which is going into the vegan, vegetarian, but it's also got some options for people that are not that way.
That's what I felt they should have done for a long time, because a lot of times in Bangkok we have some vegan friends, vegetarian, and they're like, let's go out and eat, and I'm like, but what about me? Right? Because now we're going to go to a vegetarian or a vegan restaurant, and I'm like, at first I wasn't into it. I would just say no. But now I've explored enough of the cuisine to say, okay, I can do now. My wife's kind of making us do once a week vegan, and I'll go, okay, I'll try it out and see how it works for the body. But you know, it's good that they're doing that, because then it's catering to everybody. It's keeping us together as opposed to isolating us into these groups, which is what's happening in the world now. We're getting isolated into, are you a vegan or not vegan? Are you a meat eater or not a meat eater? Are you into sustainability or not? And it's like this black and white. There is no more, hey, I'm just me.
Yeah. But a lot of vegan restaurants do have a problem with that, unfortunately.
I mean, a restaurant at the end of the day has to have an identity. It has to have a focus. It has to have a direction. Otherwise, it becomes, you know, a little bit lost of where they go and where they market. So, you know, so this restaurant does go towards more of the healthy eating, I would say, than anything else.
All right. Great. So now I'm just going to come to challenges now. I think it's important to cover that as well. And it's great to have both of you all, because your restaurants are in a big hotel chain. You are more independent. So from that perspective, what would you say your main challenge is in this region, or has been in the last year that you've operated for?
I feel since I've been in the Middle East, because we've had restaurants in Qatar before and in Saudi, I think the biggest challenge I see happening, obviously rental is always our biggest challenge. That's always the number one thing. Right away I have to look at it and say, if the rental's not right, we don't do it. But I've been noticing this trip, it was something that really hit home to me, is that we bring in all these staff, right? The imported staff, but there's no feeling, or there's no care. I don't feel there's any care factor. And so this is my biggest challenge, is trying to really spend the time to get the staff to understand my values and understand that I want to create an experience for people, and I want them to have a good time. Because if people go away smiling, they'll come back. Right. It's not about just being a robot and serving the food. So I see this as one of the big challenges at the moment.
Do you have an HR for your restaurant?
Yeah, because we're in a hotel, so they have HR, but I've spent time with them to, what I call it, my mango tree reprogramming, where I say I want these type of people. I need the mindset over the skill, because I need a certain mind, because that mind can deliver. And what our mission is with Mango Tree is we want to deliver what Thailand is and what Thai food is, not just pad Thai, green curry, and tom yum. There's 600 other dishes in Thai food. I want people to experience, because I've seen the smiles on people's faces when I get them to try something different. And they go, wow, I didn't know that was Thai food. And you're going, well, yeah, this is what we eat every day in Thailand. And so what I'm trying to do is get the staff to emulate how I would go to the restaurant and teach people about this experience. And so I call it sort of my Mango Tree brainwash. So I have to spend a lot of time educating everybody from the top down to really get on board, to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do to differentiate ourselves from the other 44 Thai restaurants in Dubai, right, or in any other country.
Which will be a challenge. I mean, the 44 is just probably a number on paper. There's probably much more.
Yes.
Coming to you now, the first point you mentioned was rents. Have you seen that as a problem in the restaurants operating within the Marriott chains?
Well, I mean, you know, there are hotels, so we don't have a rent, so that's where we're quite lucky in that respect. We do look to lease some of the spaces out, the restaurant spaces. And we're trying to, in that respect, we're trying to help restaurants out in terms of, it could be part rent, part profits, etc. So then you're not reliant on this big heavy rent if the income's not coming in. So we're trying to, along with the owners of the hotels, obviously, because it's their properties, we're trying to help out in that respect.
Right, but we've seen the real estate prices going down, especially just the mainstream real estate prices. But with regards to rent in commercial spaces, the drop hasn't been that much, especially within malls, within communities, etc. So is that something that could discourage independent restaurant owners from setting up?
Always, that's our number one thing. We look at rental as the first thing I ask any potential partner or anything. They come to me with the site, I say, how much is the rent? And I do my calculation right away and I see if it can work. It's our number one thing. If it doesn't hit a certain percentage, there you just go, it's not worth the risk. And we know what that is, and it's very quick to decide. Of
course, and another challenge that we've discussed in the past has been food wastage, especially during the bigger events like Ramadan. We've seen so much food wastage happening at that point. What are the major hotel chains who have a say and a stand in all of these matters doing to sort of reduce that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Ramadan, you mentioned there as well. I mean, we do tend to work with charities for the food waste, but there's obviously a lot of regulations and red tape around that, as far as what the government puts on us, that we can actually, you know, there's certain amounts. If the food's gone out, for instance, you know, you can't give that to charities.
Right.
It has to be that, you know, it's kept in the fridge, it hasn't gone out in the first place, etc. So there's a lot of red tape around that, but we do try and work with charities when it comes to food waste. I mean, to counter that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do smarter menus, so less items on each of the menus, more focused restaurants. So, you know, in that case, you know, you don't have to, you know, when you're buying the food, it can be more focused in that respect. So you have less.
I can't wait for smaller menus.
Smaller menus, absolutely.
I love going to Japan because smaller menus and it helps make everything so much easier to operate.
We're reviewing a lot of menus around in our hotels now, so we're making sure that they're smaller and smarter. I mean, but also, I mean, it's like going towards concepts where, I mean, we're opening a concept in the WYAS next month. Okay. Very exciting. It's called the Garage.
All right.
Because it's at the Formula One. And we've replaced the all-day dining. So that was a buffet restaurant, you know, very average buffet restaurant before we took it over. And what we've done now is we've created 5 different experiences within this outlet. So it could be a food truck, you know, a food stall, so different. It's, you know, a bar area, etc. And what they're serving is maybe 5 to 8 items from each of the outlets. Okay. So you know, again, very focused, but very exciting. So you can go there, you've got one menu which shows everything, or you can go to each, a little bit like the food markets, because they're the food markets, if you remember, from Harrods and you know, those cordon glaze and those ones, but taking that to a new level and putting them in the hotels. So we can still offer a great experience for the guests when it comes to breakfast and things like that, because you've got the area, but then it becomes smaller confined spaces, and then with less items on the menu, you have less food wastage.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, I think buffet, just the whole idea of buffets, etc. It's just horrible for food wastage, and we've seen so many brunch buffets as a culture in Dubai, where every Friday, every Saturday, that is a thing to do. So with regards to Mango Tree, as an independent restaurant where you need to keep costs in mind, probably a little more than Marriott. So how would you tackle the food wastage issue?
We do a lot of now our brunch buffet just started, and so we have a few things out, but I went to the chefs and the hotel, and I really said, hey, listen, I understand you know how to do buffet, it's easy, but this is not my philosophy, because you're putting a bunch of food out there that may or may not taste good. I'm a bit anti-buffet anyway. Even when I stay at Marriott hotels, I get my lounge, I go to my lounge, everything needs to be cooked fresh for me. So I'm a bit of a purist that way. So I have applied that to our own restaurants. And so if you want to order something, you can order it. It's still included in your buffet, but you can get it fresh. And it's not going to be sitting there. You know, we still put a few things out because that psychological factor is still there. You know, that getting away from, you know, everyone's like, well, how come there's not brunch everywhere? And I'm like, okay, I just put a less items out. And then we're very cautious with, you know, watching the time. Okay. So I'll be cautious to really go to the chefs and say, hey, there's no more food going out no matter what. If someone wants something, it's a la carte time. Right. And you can make it fresh for them. And just to drastically reduce on that. And then we're also looking to start mango trees around the whole world. We're going to do a program which I saw in China. Chinese government put out, can you believe, stickers on tables, which didn't look very attractive, but really made people understand, eat what you order. And this has been in my mind for about 4 or 5 years already, to get people to order less. And that I saw that as a result of going to China. We have 3 restaurants in China already. I go there, someone entertains me, they order a whole bunch of food, and I'm probably guilty of it too when I entertain customers, and I've really changed my philosophy on it and reduced it down to where we're not all like rolling out of the restaurant because we're so full. I say, let's have a proper, simple meal, but reduce the portion size. So the chefs usually have to cook stuff specifically for us when I want to entertain. I say, don't do the regular portion because we want to taste a few more kind of things. So
that's definitely one takeaway from this conversation. Eat what you order. That's one mindset that we all need to probably take away from this conversation we've had. But unfortunately, we're running short on time. Just one thing that I want to know from both of y'all is what's the one thing that has worked for you in Marriott, in the F&B outlets in Marriott, and what is the one thing that hasn't worked for you?
I think worked for us, I think what we're going towards now is smaller, smarter spaces.
Okay.
Instead of having the big restaurants, like especially if you're talking about a 300-room hotel that is serving a potential of 600 breakfasts, you need to have an outlet to be able to serve all those people for breakfast.
Yeah.
But that is something that's not going to work for the rest of the day. So you're not going to have 600 people for lunch and dinner in those restaurants.
Yeah.
So how can you activate that space in a different way, in a more creative way, after you've finished breakfast?
Right.
So how can that be converted?
Okay.
So it could be, you know, you divide the restaurant into two, but put the kitchen in the middle, so you can have the full space for the breakfast. You can maybe then close off the shutters in the kitchen to make it more of a back of house space, and then a couple of individual restaurants afterwards. So things like that is what we're looking towards, and maybe having more product focused all-day dining restaurants. So it could be Greek Mediterranean, or
okay.
it could be sort of Lebanese Arabic, or it could be more Asian, for instance. So those kind of things, and having
right.
them a little bit more focused.
Okay. How about you?
What has worked for us? I think what's worked is we have a niche product.
Okay.
We're different than any other kind of Thai restaurants. We go outside the norms. Yes, we still put the standard items on, but we do it a little bit differently. And I think that is what has really given us our success to grow to where we are today. I mean, next week, 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, 2 days from now, we open our 51st outlet.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I think that's a good testament to that we found the right kind of secret to build a brand, which with a product like Thai that is quite niche. Because it is, if you ask Lynne, she'll has niche product, it's hard to do, not everybody's going to come every day, but somehow we found the right formula to be able to get 300-400 people a day through our restaurants, and,
right.
and that's what makes us profitable and still be able to stay around.
Great. And what's not worked for you?
What has not worked for me? I think large menus. Big menus trying to cater to everybody.
Yeah.
And a little bit I'm trying to go through now, I'm trying to educate people about eating a bit differently for Thai food, and that's becoming a bit of a challenge for me, because people still want their pad Thai and green curry, and they're not as adventurous as I would like to get out, but I'm not giving up. That's my true passion to spread this since I started it 16 years ago. So
smaller tasting plates, let people taste things different. Because I do like my red curry and
and I like my green curry. But we're definitely coming to Mango Tree and of course Marriott. But thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you for all of those valuable insights. And thank you for watching AB TV's AB Live. We will be back again next week.